Well, if you search for Bay Keramik or Bay Keramik, if you want the anglicized pronunciation, and we'll talk about pronunciations here in a few moments. But if you look for Bay Keramik on the internet, it won't take long to get the impression that Bodo Mans designed almost everything for the company. Well, that's not accurate. And I'll get into what he did do and how we ended up in this particular mess. Before I do that, I'm going to tell you that this is Teak Talking, or sometimes known as Gen 4's Teak Talking. And I spend a lot of time talking about West German pottery, but I will be talking about other types of pottery, art glass, other types of glass, and other types of art, antiques, and collectibles. It's a place to be if you want to talk about and think about antiques, collectibles, and kitsch. It's all fun. And I am Forrest Poston. I've been in this crazy kind of game since the early 90s. It is possible I have learned one or two things along the way that might be of value or at least of interest. And it is also possible at any given time that I could be wrong. And I have been wrong. So do not take any of this as absolute truth, if there is such a thing. It is information, and please think. All right, pronunciations. Now, United States, Germany, France, we use almost the same alphabet. Now, of course, there are some variations, but we do not pronounce things the same. So there is a great deal of confusion, and I am guilty of it. I have mispronounced a lot of things, and I will mispronounce a lot in this video. I'm going to try to do some of the pronunciations closer to the French and German language that these come from. I'm going to be very bad at it. I do hope to do a video about the accurate pronunciations with the pronunciations done by a German native speaking them as they should be, keeping in mind that there are actually some regional variations in Germany. So anyway, Bodo Mans, oh, sorry, forgot one other thing. Please subscribe to the channel, click the thumbs up button, share, make comments, and click the notification bell, even though YouTube often doesn't notify you anyway. All of those things do help this video show up in search results and suggestions for more people, and that helps me. So if you don't want to help me, don't do any of that. All right, now, Bodo Mans worked at Bay Keramik for a relatively short time, few years, and may have done, some things freelance. He definitely did freelance design a lot, not just West Germany. I mean, and a lot of designers, that was how they did most of their work. They were only sometimes under contract to companies. But there are actually only 5 lines that are formally documented as being by Mans. Only 5. Now, within those lines, there are variations, there are different shapes, different colors, but only 5 lines over a period of about 3 or 4 years. And for early 60s. One of the most famous ones, and French name in the U.S., we typically pronounce it Reims, and I guess that really bugs Europeans. But we in the U.S. bug Europeans a lot, don't we? um, I can't pronounce it properly, but the pronunciation should be closer to Ramps. And no, you shouldn't trill the R. It's more of a growl. I'm better at trilling, so please forgive me. Um, and that is, geometric hand-painted design. I'm not going to put up photos of these specifically because I want you to go visit the website by Rolf J. Schumann. He is the one who has organized a lot of this information. The information's not really new. The truth has been out there for a good time, but it's just kind of floated around and not been pulled into one place and looked at. Ralph did that, so I want to thank him for that, and I want to send you to his website. So go there to see photos of these designs and a whole lot more. Also did a decoration called Saarburg, and I'm sure that's also the incorrect pronunciation. I didn't check how it should be pronounced. That's also an abstract design. Probably his best for Bay was a geometric relief series, raised lines distinguishing the various abstract shapes from one another. And the name for each variation depends on the coloring of the glazes. Ravenna and Istanbul would be two of the variations. There are, I think, 4, maybe 5 that we have the names for. Some of the shapes really aren't that great, but overall, it is really interesting work. I think that was 1961, 1962. Then in 1965, he did the Jewel series. That one may actually have been freelance. I'm not sure he was still under contract to the company by that time. It really is sort of an overdone commercial line. It's not, you can only marginally call it art pottery, but artists and designers may want to be very creative, push the limits, explore art and all of that, but they also have to make money, they have to make a living, so they design things that are more commercial. And then another example, in 1975, the last one that we have documented, and that almost certainly is freelance. I don't think he would have been under contract for the company for that many years and not have something documented by him. It was a series simply known by the form number, Form Series 94. Also very commercial. To me, it barely rises to the level of kitsch. It's, a lot like a lot of West German pottery. It's just not that attractive. Now, of course, art doesn't have to be attractive to be art. But that's it. Those 5 lines are all that Mans is documented designing for Bay. Now, he may have done some others. We just haven't found the documentation. But it just may be that's pretty much all he did. Like I say, he only worked under contract for a fairly short time. Now, just as an example of the type of thing that gets misattributed to Mans, late 1960s, the what's called the, and again, I'm going to mispronounce it, but the Topfermeister collection, which is Master Potter collection. It's raised design, and you get some people that'll tell you every raised design is by Mans. No. It has a script mark. It makes it look like it was marked by hand. And some will say if it has a script mark, that means it's by Mans. No. This was a series designed by Ernst Stauber, who was a master potter. He was certified. Mans was not. He studied a little bit of, pottery making, but he was a designer, not a master potter. And pottery was not the only thing he worked in. He did design work in other media. And I am putting up a picture there of this particular line, which I got from Rolf, by the way. But we know who designed this. Not Mans. I mean, it is documented. Ernst Stauber did this design, this series. Now, there were a little bit of issues because I guess people got the impression, since it said, Master Potter had the script mark, and seemed to give people the impression they were handmade. They weren't. There was probably a handmade original, but what was sold commercially was molded work. And I guess there was a legal argument, and they had to stop using that line name. So things get weird. Now, why did people ever start thinking that a guy who did so little did so much? Well, now that's where I kind of come in, because I started, buying, collecting, selling West German pottery, East German pottery, around 1993, thereabouts, the very early days of eBay, the early days of, the sellers in Germany really starting to list a lot of pieces. And Bodo Mans was famous among collectors, not West German pottery collectors, especially, mid-century and that type, long before West German pottery became popular. Those collectors didn't even know West German pottery existed as a collectible, much less that Bodo Mans had designed some of it. But once items started getting listed, those collectors who knew the man's name started buying the items attributed to him. And more importantly, they were paying more money for those just because the man's name was connected with them than they did for other West German pottery. Not surprising, more of his pottery got listed, and more items that were listed had his name in the listing. Now, they didn't necessarily say it was by him, but you kind of slip in, may have been designed by Bodo Mans, looks like his work, whatever. But the more collectors bought it, the more sellers listed items with Bodo Mans' name attached. And then we suddenly get, and you've seen this with, any time, fat lava becomes a popular term. Suddenly every piece listed gets described as fat lava. Even if it is not fat, it is not lava, doesn't matter. Sellers use key terms that get noticed. They sometimes use them badly, and some of them don't care. And sometimes the buyers don't care. But, I mean, Bodo Mans was and is much better known, actually, for things other than West German pottery. That was a tiny portion of what he did in his career. It was a tiny portion of what Bay Keramik ever made. So don't be fooled by a name. Look at the piece, look at the design. That's really what matters anyway. Of course, if you're reselling, knowing that his name might affect value, and it doesn't affect it nearly as much as it used to. That's one of the problems with, when these keywords get overused, it waters down the effectiveness. But there it is. Bodo Mans gets credited with everything. He didn't do very much at Bay, but he did do a lot of work. I mean, you have some fun researching what he did outside of West German pottery. And be sure to go visit Ralph's website. I will put the link in the description and or pinned comment. And thanks for watching. Hope you found it reasonably interesting, potentially helpful. And I hope you'll watch some of the other videos that are already up and the ones that I'll be doing in the future. In the meantime, so long.